This is the Russian Dynamite, Masha Slamovich.
Becca here.
This is not America's Sweetheart, Davian. And
It's Billy Starks. And
the super fly guy, Trayvon Jordan.
This is the fly side fly, Jalen Brandon.
Hardcore Princess, Jules Malone.
Hi there, this is the Bubblegum Princess, Alexia Nicole.
This is the Brazilian Wonder Woman, Christy Jane.
This is the baddest black belt, Chennai Kai.
This is Kid Bandit.
The smash hit Joel Bateman.
This is Robin Renegade.
Cody Hawk.
Brutal Bob Evans. And you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment, one of my favorite podcasts in the whole wide world.
This is The Bad Seed, Honest John, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. You better listen, but I wouldn't lie to you. Honest. Does that work?
Yes. Hello, and welcome to the show. It's Wrestling with Entertainment, the only audio experience on the web today. The trusted choice for interviewing all your favorite wrestlers every Tuesday and Wednesday on YouTube and Castbox. Sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. I'm, of course, your host, James J. And it is a great day for wrestling because we are wrestling with the Bad Seed, Honest John. How are you, John?
A little damp, but other than that, I'm doing all right. Especially after that introduction, so can't go wrong there.
Absolutely, we like to do it big here on Wrestling With. Where is Honest John spreading honesty next, event-wise?
Spreading honesty next? You're saying it like it's a disease. Honesty is not a disease. Being genuine is not an illness. Being factual and telling it like it is something I think everyone should do. Unfortunately, a lot of people do not do that. That right there, that is the disease. That's the illness. That's the symptoms of everybody deciding to not be genuine and truthful to themselves. So what I'm spreading is awareness. And that can go anywhere around the world, anywhere around the country, around a state. That is a message that can go worldwide.
And where is that message going to be next, event-wise?
Event-wise, well, I guess you got to keep a look on my social media, because everything changes. The world can change at the drop of a dime. You'll never know where I'll be, so keep posted on any social media, whether it's the Bird, X now, Instagram, TikTok, all that fun stuff at The Only Honest John. Because just like life, I'm constantly changing.
And where can we find merchandise as well?
For my merchandise, you can check Pro Wrestling Tees for any of my shirts. ProWrestlingTees.com/HonestJohn or Honest Stores they have. Or at any of the events, shows, anything you see me at, I will always be there and willing to give you guys a little bit of the Honest John apparel.
And you don't have to go looking for it. All of the links to all his social media will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox, simply click a new tab, click the link and a new tab will appear. Alright, let's get into it. You work for Empire Wrestling Federation. Can you tell us about your relationship with that company?
So they are one of the many promotions, companies, however you want to throw your terms, that I do wrestle for on occasion. It has a little sweet spot in my heart. I do recall coming there very frequently a few years ago, because that's where Honest John started. That's where Honest John came from. So I have a little bit of a sweet spot for them. I recently made my return back there. But they're not my home base no more, because as you see, Honest John has spread his wings. This bird left the nest a long time ago, and this bird turned into a hawk Hawk, I decided to come back and look at its old stomping grounds and see what's going on. And it's very interesting, the landscape of my former home.
All right. Now, when it comes to wrestling weddings, they never end up well, but they never really end up in a battle royal. Can you tell us about objecting to Bovie's marriage?
I wasn't objecting to the marriage. No, sir. I do not want to destroy the holy sanctimony between Mr. and Mrs. Bovie.
Correct.
That is not my goal. What my goal was for his title. You see, Mr. Bovie has this thing called the Participation Championship, and I wanted to participate in taking that title away from him. Unfortunately, I was not able to. I was not able to even be a part of it. So I was hoping maybe I could have had a little bit of something with it, and I was denied. So I'm a little peeved about that, but that's okay. That's okay. That's how the ball keeps rolling, and we'll just keep trying and going down the road, and maybe one of these days I will get a chance at it.
It does seem like you've had a couple of opportunities, but nothing, you have opportunities to get to it, but not actually get your hands on it, no?
It is a very intriguing title, a very intriguing championship. And I'm a person that really likes championships, and I really enjoy the prestige that comes along with holding or carrying a title, a championship, no matter where it's from or where it belongs. It always belongs with me. At least that's what I think.
Well,
I'm envious of gold, put it that way.
Well, one of the titles that you held was the Get Fisted title, which you actually defended against Effy, and you actually got a W on Effy. Can you tell us about that match and that experience?
Well, not only was my title at the time on the line, a spot on the Big Gay Brunch, Effy's Big Gay Brunch, is also on the line. So because of that match, you can fast forward a couple years later when the Big Gay Brunch NJPW came to LA. Who opened that show?
I believe Honest John did.
Me. You dang right. Honest John opened that show. With 3 other lovely competitors, I will do say so myself. But I think that answers that question of that match between me and Effy. And Effy, who I think is a lovely, lovely individual, a fantastic, phenomenal person. And, well, I think that's all I can say about that. I could talk about that for the next 30, 40 years. 30 minutes, 40 weeks. But at that point, I'll just be wasting all your time and memory on your hard drives.
Well, you mentioned, Effie's Big Gay Brunch. I mean, the big question there is, did you get brunch?
Did I get brunch?
Yes, did they provide you with brunch?
They provided food. They provided everything you would ever need. Unfortunately for them, I wasn't hungry. I had a little bit of an early breakfast that day. And you don't want to eat too much. You don't want to be on a full stomach when you're wrestling. So it may kick you wrong. You may fall wrong, and you may puke everywhere. And I don't want to be the one to clean up a mess of eggs and bacon and all that stuff. And especially when it comes up and comes out, it doesn't look nice. And a bunch of throw up and vomit doesn't look good on camera. So I made sure to eat light that day. And unfortunately, the smorgasbord that was there, I couldn't indulge in.
Fair enough. But, prior to, Big Gay Brunch, that whole WrestleMania weekend, you were kind of having a wrestling, I don't want to say crisis, but you wasn't quite sure if it was something you wanted to continue to do if you didn't get booked for WrestleMania weekend. Obviously the results were outstanding for WrestleMania weekend last year, I should say. So can you tell us about that?
So WrestleMania weekend, if y'all remember last year, took place in Los Angeles. Took place in SoCal. And I told myself the year prior, because if I remember correctly, they advertised WrestleMania a year ahead, right?
What?
And, well, if I wasn't able, with all my skills and attributes, to get on at least one of those shows, one of those big WrestleMania, not just week, because usually in those situations, in those days, in those times leading up to WrestleMania, they have a bunch of shows that aren't just the weekend, they started bleeding into the week itself. And I wasn't able to get on at least one of those shows. I told myself that I would need to do some soul searching, look in the mirror and reflect on what am I doing wrong that I can't even get on one of those great events when they're right in my backyard. Fortunately for me, I was able to get on. So I didn't need to look in the mirror and reflect on what I was doing wrong. What I needed to do was figure out how to keep on doing right, and how to keep on doing what I feel like I need to do to get to the places I need to be.
Alright. And another place that you want to be, somewhat of a grind, but you took part in New Japan's dojo a couple of years, and I believe just last year you actually got onto the showcase. So can you kind of take us through that journey and ultimately what it meant to you to be a part of the showcase?
The showcase itself felt like a culmination of years of work. I've done New Japan seminars, and I've actually worked for them for a few things here and there. You can even look and see me doing this 5 ring crew stuff, all that fun stuff. I've been a part of working for them in any way I can. Heck, there was a man named Primo Soriso that sounded an awful lot like me. Maybe he did a very good Honest John impression. But to finally be able to set foot in a ring that I put together hundreds of times, it feels like, countless times seeing other people get in that ring and thinking, I'm going to be in there one of those days. And then I finally get it. I finally get that opportunity to set foot on that beautiful, beautiful canvas. Wrestle for a company that I love dearly. It was a culmination of not just my dreams and my working, grinding. It was a culmination of somebody who was 15 years old, scavenging the internet to find more of that style of professional wrestling. But to say that I was able to set foot and actually do the thing makes me want to go do it again. It sets a fire on, lights a switch that makes you just want to keep on feeling that feeling.
Alright. Now, another, name that you've been in the ring with is Kid Bandit. Can you tell us about the experience wrestling with Kid? Obviously, a big name in independent pro wrestling, and an even bigger name in the Los Angeles area.
Match with Kid Bandit. So, I never could quite grasp just how loved Kid Bandit was and still is.
Oh yeah.
until that day, until that night that I was stepping in the ring and looking across and seeing Kid Bandit, and just how much the people just poured their heart and soul for this individual, for this person. That's something that only comes once, and I don't want to say in a generation, but that's something that you rarely see, that can capture the minds, the hearts, the love, the souls. It was such a unique experience. It's hard to say. It's hard to say that I've never been in a ring with somebody that was that loved. They just captured the imagination of everybody. It even made me, want to change my ways. It made my heart grow 3 times the size. I'm not calling myself the Grinch, but man, for that day, my icy heart, it melted.
You can say Kid has an honest relationship with the fans.
And that's a rare commodity, ain't that right?
Now,
in a world full of liars, in a world full of people that are trying to deceive everyone, to have somebody that actually is honest with the fans, that isn't me.
right. Now, late last year, I believe this match took place. You got in the ring with WWE legend Gangrel. What was that experience like, being in the ring with Gangrel?
Better yourself. WWE legend. A walking vampire. Banging and banging. Leader of the Brood. I think that writes itself. Now, don't get me wrong. I faced my fair share of monsters, mythical creatures. I've wrestled Santa Claus.
Yes.
I've fought Michael Jackson. Shoot, I've even killed the Congenian. But when you are in there with a bona fide, not just vampire, but legend itself, that's an entire different breakfast. That's an entire different omelet. That's an entire different plate. And the fact that I was somehow able to pull it off, well, looks like Van Helsing is going to need he's going to need to quit his job sometime soon, because Honest John was able to defeat a vampire.
No, I mean...
But to answer your question...
Continue.
No. To answer your question, stepping in there... No, you're fine. You're fine. It happens. But stepping in there with Gangrel was an immaculate experience.
Now, is that like a moment that you take in the moment? Or is that something that kind of sets in afterwards? Like, wow, I did that.
Now, that's a good question. That's a very good question. Because at that moment, once I'm in the ring, even as much of a legend as he is, with all of his accolades, with all of his that's the word I'm looking for, with all of his mystique, when you're in that ring, I can't think about that. You know that, because that distracts you. That's what's going to screw you over. So at that moment, Gangrel was my opponent, and my plan was to beat Gangrel. Afterwards, that's when it set in. That's when you realize who you were just in there with. And then the days after, when people are talking about it, people who aren't wrestling fans, when they find out that you wrestled Gangrel, all of a sudden, their inner wrestling child comes out when they watched Gangrel back in Gangrel's heyday. Back, because he was wrestling when wrestling was at its hottest, at its best, and he was there. He was in there with everybody, those Mount Rushmores that you hear you talk about. And he's in video games. People are enamored by the man. So when people realize that Honest John has wrestled Gangrel, all of a sudden their tune changes. Because as much as I want to say, I wrestled these other names that are, big in the wrestling world, I can go on the street and say, hey, I wrestled so-and-so. For all intents and purposes, Joe Schmo, who works at the grocery store, might not know who that wrestling name is. But if I say Gangrel, all of a sudden, tune changes. Oh my goodness, I know who Gangrel is. That's crazy to think about. Think about that.
Oh yeah.
Blows my mind. Blows my mind.
Now, something I found interesting that you did, maybe not the wisest of things, but you interrupted a Masha Slamovich interview. Can you tell us about essentially photobombing her interview?
Oh wow, you're going into the vaults.
Yes.
Man. See, I told you I've interacted with some crazy people, some insane things. And yes, I did interrupt one Masha Slamovich's interview. I think it's going to be 3 years now. Wow. It's funny how things work out. Well, I didn't do it to be malicious. No. Even at the time, granted, I wasn't as knowledgeable then as I was now. But towards the end of that interview, I was very knowledgeable of who Masha was, and still is, a very, very tough individual. And I think I still have the bruise from her form that night. She formed the living daylights out of me. Granted, I did say some very rude things to her, and, that kind of comes to the territory of being around Honest John. Honest John will tell you exactly what he thinks at that moment. Honest John is not a person to beat around the bush. I'm not one for subliminals. I can throw a few subs here and there, but especially when you're standing right in front of me, I will tell you exactly what I think. And Masha did not take kindly to that. I have no idea what she said afterwards, because I unfortunately do not speak the Russian language. But I can feel the Russian forearm, and that Russian forearm did not feel great. Did not feel fantastic.
I could say I could imagine, but I probably won't, because it would probably kill me if I took it.
I'm still standing right now to tell you that she was probably going easy on me, and that was a mean and nasty forearm. So if she was only going 50%, I hate to see what her 100% is. And yeah, I don't think I need my neck broken at the moment. I think she's known for kind of dropping people on their heads and doing a lot of violent things. They don't call her, what was it, Russian Dynamite? Something like that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I am not good when it comes to Dynamite, if you understand what I'm saying.
Yes, I 100% understand that.
Uh,
It did get, pretty heated between you and Masha. When things get to that level, it kind of culminates into a match. I have no record of yous wrestling, so what kind of happened there? Did things not just come together?
Things just didn't pan out. Probably lucky for me, because I'm still walking the earth right now. Uh, though, who knows? Maybe in the future our paths cross again, because I'm definitely not the same person who will take I don't want to say sucker punch, but a unbeknownst forearm to the face and let it slide easily. But also, Masha is a very, very, very intense individual. So it would be a very interesting encounter, and maybe if our paths cross again sometime down the line, it will be an interesting combat. Until then, I will bide my time, and I could always do with some prep time
Alright.
around it.
Now, you are on QWI's top 200 list. You were 118. Can you tell us, what did that kind of mean to you to be on that list?
The Outsports top 200 LGBT.
Yes.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. I have it down as
So,
QWI.
What that means to me is that means people are noticing. Not just me. It means people are seeing the great that could come out of that community, out of the community. Whether it's Effy and the Big Gay Brunch, or every Pride show, or every show that represents that kind of camaraderie, it's very important. It's very important for people to see that, for the exposure, for the messages that come with that. Whether it's the great promotions like Wrestle Drag, for example, or Full Queer up in NorCal, or the countless others that, shoot, I can name, but we'd be here all day. For that kind of stuff, and for me to be even on the list, to even be considered, well, I'll tell you, when I saw the list the first time, when I was on the list, I think for the first time was last year. Sorry, the year before that. I wouldn't say brought to tears, but man, was I close to crying. Because it meant not only was I recognized, it means someone was recognizing that someone like me, and it's okay to be someone like me. And there's not a lot of people that are like me. So being able to be that person, maybe one of these days I can be that person for somebody else. Maybe they'll look at that and be like, if, dang it, they can do it, I can do it. Because Lord knows I needed that person growing up. It means a lot. It meant a lot.
You were 118, I believe it was last year. Now that we're in 2024, is there a particular number you're looking at to maybe get to?
Always shooting higher. Doesn't matter if I go to 117 or if I'm number one. Always improving, always getting better. That's the goal. Reach the ceiling, you break that ceiling, and you go for the next one.
Alright, I think that's a good segue into John's Bizarre Adventure. You're a pro wrestler that goes up and down the roads, and weird, crazy, and bizarre things are bound to happen. Can you tell us a road story that fits that description?
Huh. See, now I really have to think, because I've had plenty. I've had plenty of car trips with plenty of amazing individuals. I've had plenty of flights with amazing wrestling people and not so amazing people. That's why you should always make sure to choose your seat and not get randomly chosen a seat on a flight. I really gotta think. Huh. Off the top of my head, there's so many that stand out that I can't just say one.
I mean, you could tell
So
me
I'm just gonna
more than one if
I'm
you
gonna
like.
rule it. I think for the sake of myself, because there's so many going through my head right now, I'm just gonna randomly choose one. And there was one recently where I had to drive through an entire, essentially a hurricane. 5 hours one way, 5 hours the other way. Ever see the movie Twister? Or that one scene in The Wizard of Oz we all know, where the tornado is flying and houses are flying, cows are floating,
Yeah.
and all that fun jazz? Yeah, it was kind of like that. Now imagine driving through that to go wrestle in a hardcore three-way match.
Oh, God.
Weapons, trash can, kendo sticks, driving through essentially a hurricane to go fight people. It was a live broadcast over the airwaves, and then having to drive back into it. Because as I was driving to the show, which was in Arizona, by the way, I was driving into it, but it flew over me. So driving back to California, I was driving back into it. So I had to hit it about 2 to 3 times. That nice little hurricane. And that's just a story of what I'll go through to go to a show, to go beat up people, fight people, eat people. Not the funnest story, but I gotta leave you guys wanting more.
I mean, absolutely. As they say, what a world. Hey, can you tell us about your love of Kirby?
I love a Kirby.
Yes.
Oh, to keep it short and simple, Kirby is kind of like me. A vacuum for food. I am one to indulge in a lot of food and a lot of eating, and I could put it all away pretty decently, and you know what? So can Kirby. But Kirby's also like me in a way of Kirby doesn't stop no matter what happens. Doesn't quit. No matter what's thrown at Kirby, whether it's a planet or someone else's fist, keep on going and don't stop. And you know what? That seems to be me. And I also think Kirby's pretty sick.
I can agree more. I love Kirby as well. But, you have a love of video games in general. Can you, tell us about some of your favorites? Obviously, we talked about Kirby already.
Oh, man. On my spare time, which is very, 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 very rare to have. I don't have a lot of spare time anymore these days. I do enjoy the good video game here and there. So, are we talking favorites? Are we talking what do I just like? What do I like right now?
Give us both.
My favorites? Well, there's no particular list. So, favorites of all time. I was big when I was younger into, obviously, wrestling games, because it was the only way I could get a piece or a taste of wrestling. And being able to self-insert myself into something that I was, at the time, hopeful of doing. So, the old SmackDowns, the old Here Comes the Pain was one of the ones I rather enjoyed. I was also big into games like Metal Gear Solid, something like that. Something that would inspire what goes on in my head.
Oh yeah. Well, you may love the SmackDown versus Raw games, but you may not be a big fan of SmackDown versus Raw 2007. You know?
Oh, you have done your research. Oh, I like you. I like you a lot. Because that's I'm not used to someone pulling that out. So I'm not gonna say I'm not a fan of SmackDown vs. Raw 2007. I just think it's a little bit overrated, especially compared to what came before. It's good. Don't get me wrong. I do enjoy SmackDown vs. Raw 2007 from time to time. But SmackDown vs. Raw 2006 is that much better. It's just 07 is just 06, but worse, in my opinion.
I mean, my top like 3 wrestling games is obviously No Mercy, Here Comes the Pain, and the original SmackDown versus Raw. So, um, after that, it kind of gets a little fuzzy for me, if I'm being honest.
Mm-hmm.
Until
I expect you to be honest.
well, yeah. Until we got to the story modes in like 2013 when they did the Attitude Era, and then they did with the WrestleMania showcase. That was good shit. Oh,
I do remember when I was younger playing those games as well. But if we're talking favorites, the SmackDowns. 06 was the pain.
oh yeah. Now, if we're being honest here, do blondes have more fun, John?
I don't know about you. Looking back at my old blonde phase, my own blonde era, I didn't really have as much fun as I like to say. Who knows? Maybe I need to try blonde again, because maybe that'll have more fun than my first go around. Because while I did have some fun as being blonde, I also got beat up a lot more than I'm used to. Yeah, I didn't necessarily win as much as I would like as a blonde person. Now, doesn't mean I can't go back to dyeing and dipping this curly locks that I currently have into some blonde hair dye or peroxide or whatever what they use to dye the hair, and trying to be blonde again. But I don't know about you, but these curls and this nice head of hair that I currently have, I kind of don't want to lose. Because I don't want to damage what I have.
I get that.
That blonde. Yeah, doing the blonde dye kind of damages a lot of the hair. And I don't want to go through that pain again.
Now, you are, very buff, to say the least. That being said, it's because of Uncrustables?
Dang. Man. You know, with the way you're asking these questions, you're coming off very Nardwar-y, and I really enjoy that, so thank you. It's a nice Nardwar shout-out. Because you're hitting some things that I just throw out sometimes, and you're bringing them back up, and I rather enjoy that. So thank you. And yeah, so for a brief period, I was very much on the Uncrustable kick. So there's this thing that people do before they go into the gym, where they would eat a Pop-Tart, or they would eat some Rice Krispies, something to get that fast-burning, simple carb to help fuel you for energy. I was using Uncrustables because sometimes when you're on the road, you can't make your peanut butter and jellies the best ways. And Uncrustables, especially if they're kind of frozen and they're little, they tasted like ice cream. I don't know, man. You know, they're quick, easy, and they get you exactly where you need it. So yes, I was enjoying some of the Uncrustables. Granted, not as much anymore. And also, for everybody that's listening, the Uncrustables I was getting may not be to everyone's particular liking, because I would always get the reduced sugar version. If you want to look at those stats and deets, you want to get the reduced sugar ones, because you can eat more Uncrustables. This isn't a low-calorie thing. You get the low-calorie options so you can eat more food. You don't get the regular ones because those are higher. So it means you can only eat one, and then you won't hit your goals. But if you get the reduced sugar, the low calorie, because people have talked about, honest John, why do you eat, the low calorie stuff? Why do you go to these restaurants and stuff and don't get the fantabulous, ginormous, huge, double beef, great burger? I can eat those. I can't put those away. Those are fantastic. But man, if I go and get the other thing, that's half the calories, it means I can eat more. And I just like eating. I love eating. But I don't want to go ingest 2,000 calories for a meal and still not feel full. So yes, that's the secret. Don't get Uncrustables, get those reduced sugar ones. Oh.
I don't think anybody will judge you for, getting the low-calorie ones. Well, the real heat comes from is, are you eating grape or jelly? Or strawberry, I should say.
I'm a both kind of guy. I can go both. I can definitely go both. I am not picky when it comes to my grape or strawberries. Now, if it's jelly or jam, I'm jamming all day. Jam just tastes texture-wise better for me. And when it comes to the Uncrustables, you can't choose between jam or jelly. At least I'm not 100% sure on that one. Just like how I never had an Uncrustable that was chunky peanut butter. Because I'm not picky there either. But if I had to choose, if someone was like, hey, you have to choose chunky or creamy, I'm going to go with, if I had to go for a sandwich, I'd go with chunky. But if I was putting it in something to blend it up or making something out of it, I go creamy. Because sometimes you don't want that extra crunch in something you're trying to blend. Because it just kind of ruins it. Or if you're putting it in like a bowl of oatmeal or something, sometimes you don't want that crunch. Sometimes you just kind of want the taste and a little bit of extra texture flavoring from the creamy peanut butter. And this is why me and Kirby are very similar.
Alright. Now, I wouldn't be a good journalist if I didn't ask, when is the last time Honest John lied?
Last time Honest John lied. Kind of an offensive question because that implies that I have.
I know, but I have to ask, and I apologize.
I know you have to ask. No, it's A-okay. Because the thing is, I haven't always been Honest John, I've just been John. There was a moment in time where things made split, and that's what made me the person I am right now, the person you're talking to. And whether that's something I should say or not, well, we'll leave that to ever I decide. But let's put it this way. There was a moment in time that I decided to be who I am. Be the person that you can ask, and they'll tell you exactly like it is. There's too many people that will sugarcoat things and not tell you how they truly or genuinely feel. There's a lot of people that don't care and will lie to your face. You ask them an important question and they won't answer with important generosity or important honesty. Now, a lot of people nowadays rather just hear what they want to hear. If that's the case, why did they ask you for your opinion and how you, and then not accept what you give them? Because it's not what they want to hear. There's a lot of people that don't accept what they really want to hear. They don't accept what you really want to think. And there was a moment in time where I decided I would tell everybody exactly what I think, especially when they ask me, and they don't like that. They'd rather get a pat on the back and not be truthful to themselves. They'd rather lie in the mirror. They'd rather look at that reflection and not be honest with themselves. That's where I come in. That's where I step in and tell you exactly like it is. There's a reason Honest John does what he does and wears what he wears. And so you know exactly who you're talking to. There's a reason I am who I am and who I say I am. You can trust me with anything, any question, and you will get 100% answer. You will never get a lie. You'll never get something that is not true. I am factual with what I say. I'll never, ever lie.
Alright. Now, can you tell us about your role on the Real Bros of Simi Valley?
Golly, you've done your research. You are good at what you do. I am very appreciative of that.
Of course.
Because you're going through the lore and history of me on things I've even forgotten about. So the Real Bros of Simi Valley was an opportunity given to me by my main trainer at the time, one Jesse Hernandez, who, as you said, is EWF, School of Hard Knocks, out here in San Bernardino, Southern California, that area. He lined up the opportunity for me to be a part of the Real Bros of Simi Valley because they just so happened to be filming that day at the Knights at the Columbus over in Covina, California. And, well, they needed someone that can not only talk, but look the part. And even me, 2019 John wasn't the same John you see here. He was blonde-haired. His singlet was kind of pink, but not the kind of pink that you think of when you think of Honest John nowadays. It was a Honest John trying to figure out what Honest John was, but even then you can see something. And he saw it fit to put me in that opportunity to be on the Real Bros of Simi Valley. I'm very thankful for that.
I mean, what is that
Amazing experience and everyone involved. No worries, it happens.
Sorry,
but everyone there was an amazing experience. Everyone involved was very nice, very cool, and I can't say anything negative about anything that happened.
is, kind of what were the differences that you saw, being on a production set rather than, and obviously a wrestling production?
Differences were, and this was going from me at the time. At the time, I hadn't had, that was a brand new experience for me. I hadn't dealt with anything television related back then. I was just doing wrestling shows. It was an enlightening experience. Also, they had really nice lighting. Their lighting was phenomenal. I rather enjoyed it. But being able to be in, not just in the ring, but being a part of the show, even if it was minor, got me an experience that I would cherish and would try to hunt for years to come. So different. But it makes you understand why you see a lot of wrestlers transition into acting. Because it's a different beast, but it's so similar.
And I think that's a great segue into the colossal question. Let's say that they're making a movie about you. Every movie has a soundtrack. What would be the first 3 songs on your movie soundtrack?
To be a soundtrack created for the movie itself.
Yes. For
There's
your
not going to
movie
be no... So are we talking... Actually, let me ask you. Can we get a little clarification? Is it just a soundtrack made specifically for the movie? Or is it like a soundtrack of... Think like when Kendrick Lamar did the Black Panther album. Is it something like that, where it's a bunch of licensed songs in the movie?
Yeah.
Because in my head, the Honest John biopic, the Honest John version of Iron Claw, would have, or the Honest John version of Bohemian Rhapsody, however you want to spin it. It would be all songs made for the movie. It's not going to be any licensed songs or anything like that. It will be something that was specifically curated for the movie, made for the movie, made for me. Because as much as I have my favorite songs and songs I listen to, songs I put in my playlist when I go, clang and bang in the iron paradise that I call the gym, haha, I don't think those would fit Honest John. Honest John's life is too immaculate, it's too crazy. No actor can play Honest John. That role is specific for Honest John. My life is too crazy, no actor can play me. Honest John can only be Honest John. And that soundtrack for Honest John's biography, biopic, would have to be something specifically made for it. Now, who makes it? That's the real question. There's a lot of names that would love to curate a soundtrack or make music for my movie. Whether it's someone like, I don't know, let's throw a few names. Maybe we throw out Harry Garrison Williams, or maybe we'll throw out somebody like LP. He's made a few soundtracks for movies. Maybe we can even go crazy. We'll have Kenny G make it. I don't know. Just as long as it fits the vibe of me. Maybe we'll have Tyler the Creator make it. He's very good at making music for movies. Maybe we'll have Serge Tankian. He makes music for movies. He did the Godzilla movie soundtrack. That soundtrack was pretty amazing. Maybe the person that did The Dark Knight.
So
who knows? But I know for damn sure it's not going to be no licensed dumb music that you hear when you walk into the grocery store or walk into Walmart and you hear them play top 10 hits. Mm-mm. No.
So which three artists are you locking in as your three to make original content songs for the Honest John movie soundtrack?
I think I said a few of those names already. I think you could put the names I listed into that category of like that could potentially make an Honest John soundtrack for me.
Alright, fair enough. Now, now that we have the soundtrack down, then we write the script. Obviously, you already mentioned nobody could play Honest John, but Honest John, even though you're legally obligated to make a Stanley S cameo rather than play yourself. But every movie has a supporting cast. Who would be three people significant to you and your story that would be in your movie, and who would play them?
Hmm. That is the $1,000,000 question. That would require a lot of thinking. Because there's a lot of people in my supporting cast, but I don't know who could play them. Though, to be fair, I am not familiar with a lot of actors that could play the roles needed. So I'd have to spend at least a day looking up and down on an IMDb or something like that just to really gather up the right amount of people. Because I don't want to say a name and do wrong by either the actor or the person that
We could leave it up to
represents.
casting of, who plays them. But who would be just, three people that would be in your movie that's significant to you?
Oh my goodness. Another fantastic question that would probably lead us to be here all night. Because there's so many people, and I can't choose one. I can't choose a few. Whether it's family members or very good friends or very good people that I consider brothers, I don't know where to start and I don't know where to end. So we'll just leave it up to fate, not mystery. Because who knows? Maybe next time I'll have a list. Maybe I'll do some paperwork for myself.
All right. Now on to a controversial subject: pineapple on pizza. What's your stance?
Is that really controversial?
Depending on who you ask, yes, 100%.
And I told you I like food. Pineapple on pizza is a very, I think it's a case-by-case type deal, right? It sounds like something that, if gone right, goes very, very right. If it's done wrong, it's very, very wrong. It's only two extremes, and you got to be in the mood for it. There are some people that will definitely eat pineapple on pizza every opportunity they can, but what they don't tell you is that it's not from every place. They got a specific place that makes it. And then there's other people that will never do pineapple on pizza because they ate it at a place that didn't do it right. Sometimes you need a little bit of sweetness with your savory. Sweet and savory go together. It's like why you put salt on some sweet products, because it enhances the sweetness or it enhances the savoriness. Sometimes you don't want it too overly meaty. Maybe you want that counterbalance. But it all depends on how it goes and how it goes into it. Let me ask you a question. Is ketchup sweet?
Is ketchup sweet? I mean, sometimes, depending on what brand you get.
So there you go. Ketchup does have a sense of sweetness. So does barbecue sauce. Barbecue sauce has a sense of sweetness. Shoot, you go to the restaurant Famous Dave's, and I'm pretty sure a million other barbecue joints, they have a sweet and tangy type of barbecue sauce or something along those lines. You can even go to the sweet and sour sauce. And what do you dip into those types of sauces? You dip meats, you dip chicken tenders, you dip, if it's a sauce, you put it on steaks, you put it on briskets, you put it on. Texas barbecue is slathered in barbecue sauce or any type of those coatings, marinations, and those are sweet. And you put those on savory items. It's the same dealy with pineapple. But sometimes a great steak doesn't need sauce, just like how a great pizza doesn't need pineapple. It just needs the general toppings that goes along with pizza, the pepperoni and cheese. It's a case by case and where it comes from thing. But to completely deny and say that it's blasphemy to put pineapple on pizza, then you are not culinarily educated and you don't know a single good thing about food because you'll so quickly throw it away.
Alright. What's your spirit Pokemon?
Yeah, that's my take on it. I'm a food person.
Alright. What's your spirit Pokemon?
Spirit Pokemon?
Yes.
I might need a little bit of clarification on that. I'm not sure I follow.
The Pokemon you identify the most with.
Well, who do I identify the most with out of Pokemon? That is a interesting question. And say I identify with a single one. I know the ones I liked, but there's nothing out of those, what are they at, like 800 now, that I look at and identify with. That I'm like, that's me. There's not really anything there for me.
Fair enough. Now, we love the late great Tracy Smothers on the show. Do you know the acronym for Thug? THUG.
Thug?
Yes.
Oh, man. I feel like I know the answer, but this also feels like one of those, even though there's multiple people that have names for the acronym of Thug, first thing that came to my mind, and this shows where I was at in the year 2004, was Tony Hawk Underground, because I was very much into Tony Hawk and skateboarding back then. More so the watching and not participating in doing the watching and playing the games or watching the shows or the sporting events, and less so actually doing it because I was never that good at skateboarding. I had a few relatives that were, though. They were very, very, very good at it. They got sponsored. I think they were on a few events as well. But I was never. So, but that shows you where my mind is, because I thought immediately Tony Hawk.
Well,
so I feel like I'm missing a something.
The Tracy Smothers Thug is T is for terrible, H is for hell, U is for ugly, and G is for jail. 'Cause a Doug can't spell.
That was one of those. Okay.
Yes, we love the late great Tracy Smothers, trying to keep the memory alive on the show.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The weirdest question you'll be asked on a wrestling interview, hopefully, would you ever consider wrestling a Rock? not Dwayne Johnson, not the country, an actual physical rock.
I'll do my best Chris Redfield impression and wrestle that boulder. Yes, I will gladly wrestle a rock. I will gladly wrestle a tree. Shoot, I'll wrestle a broomstick. Because you always hear I could wrestle a broomstick to a 5-star classic. I'm not about 5-star classics, but I'll sure entertain you with a broomstick, a rock, and a gosh dang tree.
Well, just for context, there's this wrestler named Psycho Mike that indeed wrestled a rock for over 15 minutes in a Tungsten Man match. That's an Iron Man match that lasts for 2 weeks.
That's an intense Iron Man match.
To say the least, yes. On a more serious note, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Doing what I love and making the most money doing it.
And what is a match people should go out of their way to see that best shows off what Honest John is all about?
It's interesting you say that because Honest John is a very layered individual. Honest John is a very textured individual. The variables of Honest John can stretch for eons. So I can't say just one that fully encapsulates everything about Honest John, because Honest John is a constantly evolving and constantly changing concept. And a walking concept in it itself. So I could give you one better. I'll give you recent Honest John.
Okay.
So, if you really want to understand what Honest John is, who Honest John can be, and who Honest John was, go watch my, well, I'll just put it this way. I recently did my top 10 matches of the year for 2023. Go check those out to understand what Honest John did in 2023, and that might be a good starting point. You can go see what Honest John did in 2022. You can just look up Honest John on YouTube, Honest John Wrestler. There is a comedian I've been fighting with, it feels like, for the last 7 years about my name. Hopefully by now, the Google and YouTube algorithms are leaning in my favor. And when you look up Honest John, you don't get a comedian who I'm pretty sure is rather funny, or anybody else. I do know there was an Honest John way back in, I think, the 70s, named Honest John Cheatham. He used to manage Abdul the Butcher. He's not around with us anymore. So my condolences there, and hopefully I am doing the name right by him, because he was the first one to use this name. Granted, I didn't get the name from him. We just happen to have the same name. So, with that being said, if you were looking up Honest John, I know this is a roundabout way to get to the answer of the question. If you want all flavors of Honest John, I would definitely go watch Honest John versus go watch Honest John versus Papa Yase. That's an interesting one. Go watch Honest John at any Wrestle Drag show. I feel like I cut loose a bit more there than I usually do. Go watch Honest John on Championship Wrestling, United Wrestling Network, because there's a bunch of variants of Honest John on there. You can kind of understand that it's easier there. you can go watch Honest John versus Effy. You can go watch Honest John at the Big Gay Brunch itself. Really hard to recommend a singular match. If I had to recommend a singular one, go watch Honest John versus Enzo Amore.
Alright. And I will search YouTube for one of the matches you mentioned, and put it in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox for anybody that hasn't seen it, wants to see it, wants to re-see it after this interview.
Yes. Also, make sure to check out my. Oh, is it mine if it has my name, but I have someone else for it?
I mean, if it's yours.
Essentially,
yeah.
just it is mine, and I know a lot of people, especially in the industry, are very busy just like myself, and they have somebody else kind of manage their social media. Well, I do that with somebody who manages my YouTube account. So go look up that YouTube account. It's just Honest John. I'm pretty sure if you look up Honest John Wrestler, you'll definitely find it. It will come up. They've been uploading a lot of my matches, and I'm pretty sure you'll see those matches up there rather soon. They're isolated matches, because a lot of the matches are on long shows. They're on long clips. You got to look for them. So you might not necessarily be search Honest John versus blank. You may not get them. You may have to search for the actual show itself until, obviously, it appears on my channel, where you then can look up, let's say, for example, Honest John versus Enzo Amore. You'll then have to wait for that to upload there. Otherwise, you'll have to look at the actual show itself, which the show was Valley Wrestling Connection.
And the link to your YouTube page will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox as well. Alright, and since we're nearing the conclusion of this interview, we are wrestling with the 8 questions of doom.
Dun, dun, dun.
This is our speed round, our bonus round, the round where we see who you really are. Are you ready?
That 8 questions of doom?
Yes.
Hopefully these questions are ready for me.
Excluding yourself, greatest wrestler of all time.
Including myself, greatest wrestler of all time is a toss-up, and it's a hard question to answer, but I will say this. My top 3, because I can't just put him there, will be Bryan Danielson, Kurt Angle, and Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Worst wrestler.
Worst wrestler of all time is a very loaded question, and it's very unfair because wrestling is such a subjective sport that someone's worst could be someone else's best. But I'll say someone that encapsulates everything worst about wrestling hasn't been born yet.
Alright. You're main eventing WrestleMania for the World Championship. Who is your opponent?
Now, with that being said, that is another loaded question, and I'll just keep it to whoever is on the main roster right now, whatever that is on WWE. And if that was the case, I am wrestling somebody that, you know what, I'm just going to throw it out there. Honest John versus John Cena.
Alright. If you could come out to anyone's entrance...
The Battle of the Johns.
Battle of the Johns. Yes. If you could come out to anyone's entrance music, past or present, who would it be?
It's funny you mention that, but there's only two that come into mind that I would. Well, actually, there's three that come to mind. Obviously, you can't go wrong with Edge's theme. He's used his classic, the On This Day. Can't go wrong. You can't go wrong with Christian from '05. His If You Close Your Eyes from back then.
Yeah, Bulletproof.
But if I had to choose one, yeah. If I could choose one to come out to that really, really, really past, present, man, it's gonna be a weird choice. It's gonna be a weird choice because I love the classics. I love My Time or Higher Brain Pattern. You can't go wrong with Shawn Michaels' Heartbreak Kid music. You can't go wrong with The Big Evil, You're Gonna Pay. You can't go wrong with, obviously, The Rock or Stone Cold. They're classics. You can't go wrong with anything modern. You can't go wrong with Glorious. You can't go wrong with Shinsuke. You can't go wrong with Roman Reigns. But this is going to sound different. But for a moment there, the Way thing, when they were in NXT, Gargano, Theory, LeRae, when they were together as The Way, that theme that Gargano was using, I felt like didn't get its just desserts. It wasn't done justice. It wasn't used long enough to be done well. I would love to come out to that.
Alright. Now, finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
Can you repeat that again? I didn't quite hear it.
Yeah. Finish the sentence. Kayfabe is...
Kayfabe is... Kayfabe is a person. I swear I saw them recently, but who knows? It might have been a ghost.
We would have also accepted taste great on toast.
I'm more of a jam guy.
Squash. Vegetable or fruit?
Squash could be a lot of things. I swear the other day I had squash and spaghetti, so it could be whatever it wants to be. Just like a tomato. It can be sweet. It can also be on a salad.
But is it a fruit or is it a vegetable?
Does it have seeds on the inside?
Excuse me?
Does it have seeds on the inside?
Well, that would give away the answer, wouldn't it?
Is a tomato a fruit or a vegetable?
Well, technically, a tomato is a fruit. So.
There you go.
Okay. So, all right.
Mm-hmm.
New Japan wrestler Taichi, his ring gear gets smaller every year, revealing more of himself to the world. My question, what is the appropriate trunks to butt cheek ratio for ring gear?
Ooh. Oh my. As long as it's not trunks to butt cheek. Well, okay, that's a interesting question. So trunks to butt cheek, I would have to say. I'm going to tell you straight up, I don't want to see nobody's butt cheeks. Cover up them cheeks. I don't care if your glutes look amazing. Save that for the bedroom. A lot of the times with wrestling, there are people watching that probably don't want to see butt cheeks, right?
Right.
Now, if it's done well and funny, if it's done right, cool. Throw them cheeks out. Throw those glorious glutes. But only if it's done right. And unfortunately, a lot of the time, and I saw it recently, butt cheeks being taken out are done wrong. So, with that being said, unless you know how to do it right, keep those butt cheeks in those trunks and cover those cheeks up. So, I don't know how to determine the ratio, but enough to cover the cheek.
Okay. And the last question, the main event, the thing everybody wants to know. Have you ever had a conversation with a stranger in a supermarket about Darby Allin?
Oh. Have I? This is one of those questions, isn't it? You know what? The other day I was talking with somebody in a grocery store, and for some reason he decided to as we were going through and I was picking out my items for my grocery list, so I was throwing them in my cart, he walks up to me and he goes, "Excuse me, sir, I have a question. As I put my jam into this cart, I look at him. He looks very down on his luck, and I say, 'What's the matter, sir? Why are you bothering me in this day and days?' He says, 'You look like somebody that I know.' I go, 'Obviously I'm somebody you know. I'm Honest John.' He goes, 'Honest John, can I ask you a question?' I say, 'Yes. Yes, you may.' You ask so politely, even though you disturbed me as I was grocery shopping. He says, 'Do you know Darby Allin?' I go, 'Darby Allin? Darby Allin is a fine gentleman, a fine scholar. I see him all over television. I don't know him personally, but I know of him. What about him?' You seem disappointed that I didn't know him personally. But he asked me, he says, 'He's very good at skateboarding. Could I ever be as good at skateboarding as Darby Allin?' And I look at him in his face, and he's walking there with a cane, which is weird why he had a cane. I think he had a bum leg. He had a horribly bum leg. And now that my memory comes back to me, granted, I am a wrestler. I get hit in the head a lot, so my memory is not what it used to be, but I do remember the fact that he was wearing a nice cape covered in shrouds. Maybe it was a hooded sweater. Point being is that I look at this young man that just happened to look old, and I said, 'Yes, you can. You can be whatever you put your mind to. Even with me, half of a mind myself, I believe you can do anything.' Just walks away. It was the strangest interaction I've had in my years of living. But yes, I have talked about Darby Allin in my grocery store shopping life, I guess. It was very interesting. He waved goodbye, and I don't think I've ever seen him ever again, but he did leave a mark on my life.
You're talking to him right now.
I knew it. I knew it. There was something interesting about that question. I was like, that's too specific.
And that is the correct answer. And that will conclude this interview. Thank you so much, John, for coming on and doing this with me.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. It was fun.
Once again, where can we find all things Honest John on social media and your merchandise?
So to find Honest John, my Instagram is The Only Honest John. I'll repeat, The Only Honest John. My Twitter is also The Only Honest John. Everything should be The Only Honest John. Granted, my YouTube, I think, is just Honest John. My pro wrestling tees is /HonestJohn or /HonestStore. I don't know if they changed it yet. But you can find everything about me there, whether it's Instagram, Twitter. Heck, I even have a TikTok for everybody that just has that. It's also The Only Honest John. But you can see anything about me, anything involving me, shows, events I have lined up. You will get all your information and everything you need to know on those social media apps.
Alright, and you don't have to type it into your Google machine. All of the links to all his social media will be in the description of the video below, but on YouTube and Castbox, simply click the link. A new tab will appear on whatever device you are on. You have no excuse. Buy a damn shirt.
Buy a damn shirt. And if you don't want to get a shirt, that's fine. That's fine. I recommend you do. Though, if you really want something else, I'll let you know to come to my shows that I'm at, and you can get a nice picture, a nice pin, a nice sticker. I have very great merchandise that you all will enjoy. I do recommend a shirt. The shirts are nice. The designs are nice quality.
Exactly. Buy a damn shirt. Of course, thank you.
Yeah, buy a damn shirt.
Of course, thank you.
I know if you don't.
Thank you for listening. If you like what we're doing, please like, subscribe, comment, but on YouTube and Castbox. This is, of course, sponsored by Rogue Energy and Player One Coffee. Join us tomorrow as we interview Izzy B, and join us next week for Wrestling with Mania Madness Week. Keep in contact at Wrestling with Eve, but on Dread, X, and Instagram for information on who we're interviewing, when we're interviewing them, links to those interviews, more information on what we're doing for Wrestling with Mania Madness Week, and so much more. Follow me personally at JamesJ993. Alright, John, when I say Wrestling With, you say entertainment, okay?
Sure.
For our very special guest, Honest John, Coleco Yachts, Scooter Dust, I am James J, and this has been Wrestling With
Entertainment.
Hey folks, this is the Colossal Mike Law, and you are listening to Wrestling with Entertainment. Enjoy the show, support these guys. We appreciate it very much. We'll see you at ringside.